The brushstroke that went viral was no more than a flick of diluted indigo on a cracked wall, but it glimmered like a comet against the soot-black sky of Dharavi. Passers-by paused, their eyes drawn to the way the pigment seemed to pulse, forming the silhouette of a resilient girl balancing on a rusted bicycle, her eyes fixed on a distant horizon. Within an hour, the grainy video captured on a neighbor's cracked phone spilled into the feeds of Mumbai's influencers, amplified by the hashtags Dharavi Dreams and Tash Street Muse. By sunset, the entire city buzzed, and somewhere amongst the marble arches of Kalagoda, Dean Anil Mehta watched the clip on his office screen, his brow furrowing as the color of the girl's dress matched the sapphire of his own old notebook. He saw, for the first time in years, a hand that did not belong to any school, any lineage, creating a lineage-defying vision. Arjun Joshi stood beneath the murmuring eaves of the slum's makeshift market, his left hand still stained with the day's pigment. The brush was as much a part of him as his breath. Its worn wooden shaft bore the grooves of countless nights spent on tin roofs, sketching the faces of Mahila workers, the flickering lamps of monsoon streets, the unspoken prayers of children waiting for school buses that never came. He had never imagined his art would ever leave the narrow alleys that cradled his childhood, but the sudden surge of attention brought a mix of exhilaration and dread. Leela Patel, a fire-spirit cultural activist, arrived breathless, clutching a stack of printed screenshots. "Arjun, they've called you," she whispered, eyeing the crowd that had gathered like a hive around his mural, the scent of samosa oil and diesel mingling with the fresh paint. The invitation arrived 3 days later, sealed with the embossed insignia of the Kalagoda Academy. "Sir Arjun Joshi, you are cordially invited to audition for a place among our scholars. Please present your work to Dean Mehta on 12th of June 2024, 10 a.m. at the Academy's main gallery." The envelope felt heavier than its paper weight suggested. It bore the weight of a world Arjun had only ever witnessed through the reflective surfaces of discarded metal drums. He showed the letter to his mother, who pressed a frayed prayer shawl over his shoulders, her voice trembling. "Your father would have been proud, Beta, but remember, we have no name to give you in their halls." When Arjun entered the Academy's courtyard, the contrast struck him like a monsoon thunderclap. The polished marble floors reflected a sky of high-ceiling windows, and the walls, lined with abstract canvases, seemed to whisper of centuries of sanctioned taste. A troop of well-dressed students in crisp white shirts and navy blazers moved like a procession, their shoes clicking against the stone, while the faint echo of a veena filled the air, reminding Arjun of the dhun he used to hum while painting. He was led to a spacious studio where Dean Mehta awaited, his silver-threaded beard framing a face that seemed chiseled from old marble. Mehta's eyes narrowed as Arjun presented his portfolio, a tattered leather-bound book of charcoal sketches, vibrant acrylic studies, and photographs of the Dharavi mural. The dean's fingers traced the edge of a sketch of a mother holding a child amid a sea of laundry lines. "Your talent is undeniable," Mehta said, his voice a measured rumble. "But to become my disciple, you must surrender your dominant left hand. It is a token of humility, an offering to the tradition that has nurtured many before you. Only then will you be truly taught." The words fell like a cold gust, echoing the ancient tale of Ekalavya, whose own devotion was cut short by the thumb of a privy master. Arjun stared at the dean's stern visage, the weight of an old myth pressing upon his modern heart. The demand sparked a silence that stretched beyond the studio's walls. Arjun's mind raced images of his hand, smeared with colors, shaping stories for the people of his lane, now being asked to be amputated in spirit, if not in flesh. He felt the tremor of his left wrist, the callus that had become a map of his journey. In that moment, the courtyard outside seemed to pulse with the rhythmic beats of dolaks, as if the entire slum were holding its breath. Leela, who had followed him to the academy, squeezed his arm. "We cannot let this happen," she said, her voice threaded with resolve. Arjun returned to Dharavi with a storm of thoughts, the dean's demand etched into his conscience. That night, under the flickering orange glow of a street lamp, he met Rohan Desai, a sophomore at Kalagoda, who had been captivated by the viral mural. Rohan, whose family owned a boutique art gallery in Bandra, whispered, "My professor says the dean wants to keep the lineage pure, to prevent anyone from stepping out of the caste-crafted circle of maestros. But I have seen your work, Arjun. It belongs to the city, not just a class." Together, they conceived a plan that would turn the academy's marble corridors into a stage for Arjun's truth. Leela rallied the community, spreading word of a flash mob art event at the gateway of Kalagoda, a place where the city's wealth and its underbelly met. They called it the unbroken brushstroke, echoing the myth they were about to rewrite. Posters in bold Devanagari and English sprouted on the slum's walls, each bearing the image of the viral mural, with a simple line beneath, "Watch us paint the sky with our own hands." On the appointed morning, a throng of Dharavi's residence women in bright saris, children with gleaming eyes, elders with weather-worn faces marching in unison, arrived at the foot of the academy's grand arch. Their rhythm was accompanied by the beating of dolaks, the scent of fresh chai mingling with the perfume of polished marble. Arjun stood at the center, his right hand clutching a set of brushes, his left hand gently resting on his chest as a silent promise. He began, not with hesitation, but with a fluid motion that seemed to summon the very spirit of the slum onto the academy's immaculate marble steps. He painted, stroke by stroke, the image of the girl on the bicycle, her visor catching the first ray of sunrise, the silhouette of Dharavi's rooftops, and the faces of those who had cherished his art. The colors, indigo, vermilion, saffron, seeped into the stone, leaving a temporary veil that shimmered before the morning sun. Spectators from the academy, drawn by the commotion, gathered at the steps, their polished shoes tapping against the marble as they witnessed the impossibility of a wall turning into a canvas for a people who had never been invited to its halls. Dean Mehta, standing in the marble atrium, watched his polished world dissolve into a riot of hues painted by a hand he had tried to deny. The performance lasted only minutes, yet the impact rippled like a chant through the city. Social media exploded anew, this time with live streams of the flash mob, hashtags #unbroken brushstroke and toss hands of Dharavi trending across the nation. News anchors interviewed the crowd, their microphones catching the voices of mothers praising the boy who dared to paint their lives onto the city's elite canvas. Even the dean's board members, seated in their ivory chairs, felt an unfamiliar tremor. The image of the painted marble steps haunted their polished corridors. Faced with the public outcry and the undeniable talent displayed before his eyes, Dean Mehta convened an emergency meeting of the academy's board. The room was thick with the smell of polished wood and incense, a stark contrast to the earthy aromas of the slum. Mehta, his voice now softened, addressed the assembly. The legend of Ekalavya teaches us of sacrifice, but also of the arrogance of those who demand it. Arjun Joshi has shown us his mastery without surrendering his gift. Let us honor that mastery, not by demanding loss, but by fostering it. The board voted unanimously to rescind the hand sacrifice clause. The following week, under a canopy of marigold garlands, Arjun returned to the academy, this time as a scholar, not a supplicant. He walked the marble corridors with his left hand free, its paint-stained fingertips a badge of his journey. Dean Mehta, now his mentor, stood beside him, offering guidance without imposing the weight of ancient prejudice. The academy opened its doors to a new cohort of artists from varied backgrounds, each bringing colors that had once been confined to alleyways. In the months that followed, Arjun's murals blossomed across Mumbai. On the walls of railway stations, on the facades of corporate towers, on the back of abandoned warehouses. Yet his most treasured work remained the temporary mural on the Kalagoda steps, a reminder that art belongs to no single caste or class, but to the collective heartbeat of the city. When asked about the hand he was once asked to surrender, Arjun smiled, his left hand resting lightly on his heart. The hand that paints is the hand that remembers. I will never surrender the memories it holds. The city, now humming with the rhythm of countless brushes, learned that the true guru is not a man behind a marble door, but the streets that keep whispering stories, waiting for someone daring enough to listen and paint them into eternity.